Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Factorio Bob's Angels, episode 40. With 2 hours of gameplay compressed down to 21 minutes and 21 seconds for another gripping episode of Bob's Angel of Death. Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, I managed to get the 2 hours of biter slaying that I wanted to get recorded. I wanted to get this area cleared in one episode because it gets pretty boring after a while, especially if you're the one recording. But if you're watching, yeah, it's you don't want to watch episodes of just slaying and slaying. So we got a good amount of clearing done in this episode. We won't have to deal with this for another little while. But yeah, so this is 2 hours of gameplay at 6 times speed. I wasn't sure how it was going to come out. I have watched a little bit of it, but we do go for it. So we have a look at the evolution at the start there, just to get an idea of how much we're pushing it. And it's currently at 9.2. We're only a minute in, and I've nearly died twice. That first one being absurdly close. My health gets so close. We get the heartbeat going and everything. So the goal is to try and clear this whole area east of the bus. We first work towards this bottleneck here. This is where one of the edges of the area is going to be. So my old method used to be work towards each of the bottlenecks, block off the whole area, and then clear everything out in the middle, rather than leave gaps where biters can come in and spawn new bases. But again, we're going to be using the method of just laying out nice thick bunches of turrets that will be roughly, their ranges will sort of cross, so no biter groups will be able to sneak through. But we get to this bottleneck pretty quickly, and we start to fill this in. This will be the area where we start to work down from. Hopefully, just east of me, there is a little bottleneck we can use, but I will need to set up some form of a radar here to scan the area and see geographically which is the best place to put in the defenses. You can see on the minimap there, just above me, there is a bit of water there, so hopefully it's quite big and quite close to another bit, the bit sort of south of us. But we shall see. So we work our way up to here, at least pushing the bases back enough so that we can put these blocks in. We are also doing research this episode. We might as well, even though you could see right at the start of the video, there was a very, very slow trickle of tin coming in. So that is going to be holding us back doing research. But as you heard just there, we've just completed some bullet shooting speed. And I can't believe I hadn't noticed this already, that I hadn't done the maximum of bullet shooting speed and damage that was available, because it makes a massive difference. It started off being a little bit difficult doing the biter pushing with turrets, with the sniper turrets, but once we started to get the bullet shooting speed and damage, of course it was a lot better. So I wish I'd done that a lot earlier. Our defenses would have lasted a bit better, and the other pushing we'd done would have been a bit more efficient. But we have a lot of turrets on us at the moment. We have around 200, I believe, or at least up until 200, up until we do start putting the blocks of defenses in. We did leave the factory with all available sniper turrets. We had all the ones we could muster. I did let a little pile of them buffer in between episodes, along with a lot of piercing ammo. We did also do a couple of things while waiting for those to buffer in between episodes. It's just a couple of things. We doubled up the battery production. I just took a blueprint and had the factory place those, just because batteries were holding up accumulator production a little bit. It was slightly slower than solar panel production, and that's another thing we did. We placed out a load more solar panels and accumulators just to make sure we don't run out of power while we're out here doing this. We are now producing more power from the Mark II medium solar panels than from the original ones. We've also filled out that column we were placing down to the rail, so I'm now going to start using the higher mark of substation. And we're also getting long build 3, so should have a nice long reach. It would be a bit handier with turret creeping, although it does make the whole thing even more cheaty. But that's another thing I made, which we saw just then. I made a flamethrower and automated some flamethrower ammunition, but as we saw just there, yeah, it's not viable to use it. I nearly got myself killed. So I head back to the factory just to top up on ammunition and turrets, just to keep the factory producing it and make sure we've always got enough. You could see another thing I've done before the episode, and that was to double up the piercing ammo production for this episode. I also looked at making some better armor, but to get the materials to create it, it would have required things that I want to do in recording, and I didn't really want to put this episode back to 41. It's nice to keep it occasionally on the milestone, although I think I did miss it on episode 30 it wasn't right, but who cares, you know, so long as there is occasionally some biter slaying to enjoy. And at this speed it is pretty ridiculous. But those groups hanging around, sort of just searching around, do get bigger and bigger. Another thing we picked up just now at the factory was a load of solar panels and some accumulators. So what we can do is put a radar in nice and far out that'll be able to scan for us. We put some accumulators in so it can scan at night, and this roughly has enough power to keep it going through day and night. And amazingly, it has exposed a rubite patch. I even slow the video down there just so we have enough time looking at it, because at 6 times speed it was pretty ridiculous. So yeah, we found our first rubite patch outside of the starting area, which is a massive relief for me. I was getting really worried about that. So we'll be hooking that up a lot sooner than I thought. So that's an extra objective for this episode. Originally I was going to clear up to where I put the radar and build a temporary wall down to the lake in the east. But now I kind of decide while I was recording this that I want to get that rubite patch included in the area. So we leave that radar there to keep scanning. I do keep looking there to see as soon as possible when we can utilize the area around there, but we'll need to leave it for a bit to scan. So I carry on cutting through the groups of biters to possibly place another radar just to scan a bit quicker, but we just keep pushing, taking bases out. And we have another look at the evolution, which is now at 0.929, so it's gradually going up. We're already against the basic behemoth biters and spitters, so I believe it'll just gradually push us into the Bob's Mods ones now. I'm pretty sure there's Bob Mobs, behemoths of all the varieties of the fire spitter, the poison spitter, etc. One of the godsends of doing this video was the diamond pickaxe. I believe I said it last episode or the episode before, but it is an absolute godsend. If you pace the turrets out in nice straight lines, you can pick them up just as quickly as you put them down, and it makes this so much easier. So we come back to top up again on stuff, and also have a look at these defenses, because they are getting pushed out or taken over by the biters and spitters. Then they're in bot range, and the bots are coming putting turrets out and getting themselves blown up. So it's not exactly ideal, and this is the area we're supposed to be clearing at the end of the bus here. So I do come and push them back a bit, but I do kind of steal some of the turrets, but placing them back in nice straight lines, and they should be strong enough to hold for now. I think a couple of them do get taken out, but the majority of them do all right. And we start pushing some of these bases back just to get them out of the pollution and less of a nonsense. But at 6 times speed, this looks pretty ridiculously fast, but even at normal speed, it was so quick just to place turrets out and pick them back up again. But hopefully this is going to be the last episode where we're using turret creeping. Once we've got access to Bobmonium patch and a rubite patch, which will probably be the premise for next episode, we should be able to get those both in, and maybe even a lithia water station, because we've now got access to several patches that we can use. We'll have all the resources needed in the factory to work our way towards getting some power armor. We're going to need some gold, titanium, and a few other things. But yeah, hopefully the next biter slaying episode will be with a flamethrower and maybe even some destroyer robots. So it may be not until episode 50 where we do some serious biter pushing. There's still going to be some cases where we need to do some, but it's not going to take up a whole episode for a while, like this. So one last thing I did before the episode. I know it sounds like I've done quite a bit, but these are all just menial tasks. You know, it's not stuff I really feel like I need to record, so I do try and keep it on a minimum, but it is kind of necessary for me to keep the series going in a nice flow. But one of the other things I did before the episode was try and finish off the Stirotite defenses. I didn't get all the way there. I doubled up the laser turrets, almost got them all the way around the patch, and just concentrated the sniper turrets a bit more at the bottom, but that's almost done. And that went hand in hand with the solar and accumulator placement. I didn't want to run out of power while I'm up here and have a huge tragedy and have to stop halfway through the biter slaying. So we managed to pretty much achieve that. Nothing really bothered us. There was a couple of attacks up in the Sapphirite that I do ignore for a bit. We do eventually have to go and deal with it, but that's not for another while. But yeah, two hours of gameplay for 20 minutes. It's pretty concentrated. While I was recording this, I was really worried that I wasn't going to have very much to talk about, and it was just pure biter slaying. But there's just bits like this where I place like you know, nearly 200 turrets out to clear that base. That was one huge collection of biters and spitters. I'm not sure if it was completely one base, but it was in like a big sort of weird like ZL shape. But we make it all the way across to the lake, and I get another radar outpost set up, and we can see that it's pretty close to the lake there, which is absolutely fantastic news. That huge lake there is going to be a massive strategic advantage for us. We'll be able to put some turrets in north of the Rubite. I'll put in some more permanent defenses when I put the station in, but it also means that there's another stereotype patch included in the area we've cleared. So I leave a load of turrets up there just as a distraction. I come back down for some more ammunition. I'm just trying to constantly keep topped up, and because I place a load of turrets, we're kind of starting to run low. Doing this much biter pushing, I really wanted to keep as many turrets on me as I can, because it's very handy to leave a load behind when you're trying to take out a whole base. If you can take out a whole base straight away, you're going to use a lot less ammo. One of the things we did down there was just place some brick to get all the construction robots out. The base wasn't placing logistics robots out because it was completely full of construction robots. Something really weird keeps happening. The circuit condition I have in place to control construction and logistics robots going into the system keeps disappearing. I can't seem to find any sort of reason why or when it happens, but occasionally I'll just find that the circuit wires have disappeared. I don't believe I've touched... In fact, no, there's no power poles even connected, so it's not like I've deleted the power pole or anything. The circuit conditions go straight from the inserters to the RoboPort, so I don't know why that keeps happening. It's very frustrating. I'll just have to keep an eye on it. At this point, we just check the outpost to make sure the power's running all night, and yeah, maybe try and work out another way of doing it. But that's the way I've always done it, and it's always worked fine. I don't see why I should change it. I just don't understand why they keep disappearing. So now the next bit of clearing is to clear all the biter bases up towards that Rubite patch and put in some defenses to stop any biters from setting bases up from the area north of here. So finally we've got some Rubite on screen. Due to our distance away from the starting area, it's a pretty dense patch of ore. It's quite a nice percentage on the infinite patches, and on the normal patches there's like 4,000 or 5,000 units on some of them, which is great. It should be more than enough Rubite we need for a while. We do continue to scan this area with the 2 radars we've got, but just to speed it up a bit, I put a third one in, just because they're nice and easy to set up. They're self-sufficient, and it's going to show this whole area up. We're probably going to push this way some more for more resources. The further away you get from the starting area, the more dense the ore patches get. So rather than push out in every direction, it'd be nice to sort of have these really long rails going out in sort of a linear line, finding lots of patches. But if there's ever a really nice big juicy patch that gets scanned on the edges, I will always go for it, because yeah, you get a nice amount of infinite patches on it. So we come down and clear these last few patches of bases. It's starting to look nice and clear, and I actually get an opportunity to use the flamethrower there. I see a couple of nests that are a bit vulnerable, and we go and burn them down. I do use it a couple of times. There was one I think I might have used already that I didn't mention, but there's another one we find on its own, and I run out and flame it just for a bit of fun. It's going to be great once we get some power armor to start flaming them, because you can just run through a base, set fire to all the nests, and the biters run around for a bit and they all just die. So we're going to be able to... I don't think I'll ever do another 2-hour episode, to be honest, if I have power armor and a flamer, because we're never going to clear areas that big. The speed in which we'll be able to do it, it's going to be a hell of a lot quicker than this. We'll just carry loads of flamer fuel on us and suitable power armor to run fast and stop us from dying. Probably even stop using the car, to be honest, because you can actually run quicker than the car. Although I think there's maybe faster cars now. It might have been an update in the mod, but we'll see. Driving's always a little bit dangerous anyway. So we have our defences in the bottleneck up here at the Rubite. We just need to now clear down past the end of the bus and through the desert. I'll probably put in some blocks across to the lake, roughly parallel with where the stereotype wall is, roughly around there, which will give us access to a bobmonium patch and some thermal water. There are a couple of bases that have creeped out, so we do have a scan around. We do find one just to stop them spreading and filling the area back in. But I'm not too bothered. Any bases that do get produced, will be extremely small, like that one a moment ago, and very easy to clear out. So we're about 3 minutes now into the second hour of gameplay. It's going so much quicker now than it was to play it. It's a great way to just get this all cleared in one episode. This area will also give us access to yet another Crotinium patch. So what's that? 3 Crotinium patches we now have access to. So we've got absolutely loads of that. We're probably not going to need to use them for a while. I did check the stockpiles of resources in between episodes, and copper's probably doing the best at the moment. We've got the most of that stockpiled, using a hell of a lot of iron for research, and we're going to use a hell of a lot more when we get the other forms of research done. Speaking of research, we've just completed the tool belt, which gives us another row on the quick bar, which is handy. So I need to go and finish putting in the circuit network for the sorting area, because if we've got too much copper, we probably want it to use the more complex versions, and then any of the ores that those versions produce will get it to shut it off altogether, and that's going to reduce the pollution being produced by mining areas. So yeah, I'll finally have to work out how I'm going to do the circuits there. I know there's a much more complicated way I could do it with combinators and whatnot, but I still don't really understand that well enough to come up with it on my own. So I'm just doing basic circuit conditions, saying if there's enough of this ore type, don't let this type through to be sorted. Use the lower terms, and if we've got enough of the basic ores, then just don't use it at all. So depending on how many episodes it takes to set up the bobmonium and rubite outposts and the thermal liquid, we're going to be spending quite a lot of time in the factory, so long as the areas don't get absolutely trashed. I'll try and keep the topping up and checking of defenses done in between episodes, but yeah, we're going to be spending quite a lot of episodes now getting the rest of the stuff set up in the factory. We're probably going to get to a point where we're going to need more steratite and sapphirite, you know, the main angel's ores, as we increase the amount of science we're going to be doing and the amount of resources we'll be using. But hopefully we can now advance the base quite rapidly, as we've got all the materials we need for the higher tier stuff and to get to power armor. So yeah, we're going to be spending a lot more time expanding the Bob's sub bus and getting all the rest of the materials produced. We're going to get the factory running and being more active than it ever has done before. I can start to tidy up all these horrible artifacts that I've left lying absolutely everywhere, which has just been really annoying. I just probably won't do it until I got a personal roboport and I can just go around and hoover it all up nice and quickly with some construction robots. So I've been putting it off quite a bit during the recording, but we finally have to succumb to the attacks up at the Sapphirite. There's a new biter base that's set up right next to the turret, so they've just been reluctantly attacking it until it runs out of ammo. So I have to come up, rearm it, and while we're up here, we just come and check the main turret area for the Sapphirite. This area is not going to be here much longer. The next biter clearing we're going to do is up there in the desert to expose another 2 Sapphirite patches and some Javolite. I think I might have said steratite earlier. But at this point, we find the largest group of biters just randomly hanging around. I am even tempted to use my flamer, which was a bit pointless. It doesn't really set any of them on fire. But yeah, pretty huge group of them seemingly just hanging around, which is a bit bizarre. And we come round, dealing with a few more groups of stragglers that were clearly trying to sniff the direction that I'd gone in to get out of here. And one of them must have got past us, because where I decided to take some turrets out, we get attacked and we lose a few turrets. So I come back and put a couple in just to make sure none can sneak past. And we come and continue to do the last bit of the biter pushing. We come and take these small bases out. There's the bobmonium patch that we're going to be hooking up next episode, because our current shortfall is tin. So we're going to need to start processing that bobmonium there. And I reckon in one episode I'll be able to get the bobmonium in, the rubite and the thermal water. I'll try and get that all done in one episode, and then we can start processing it in the episode after. And like I said, yeah, really start to advance where we're going with the factory. So we're pretty much on the line where I want to get the blocks of turrets in. We're just going to use that again because it's going to be temporary defenses. This whole area south of us is going to get cleared. The defenses for the steratite are essentially going to be temporary. I've made them more permanent with walls because I thought they were going to be here a lot longer than they actually are. So they'll be there for a bit. We'll see how many episodes they'll need to be there. But yeah, we're going to push out even further because there's plenty of resources down here in the southeast which would be good to utilize. The track's been brought out this way, so we might as well do it anyway. So with the last bit of the 2 hours of gameplay, we just clear these last couple of biter bases down here that I need before I can put the sort of defense blocks in. They're not really designed to deal with a lot of biters. They're just designed to stop biter groups going out and spawning new bases. But this is probably one of the biggest bases we clear in this episode. It was pretty huge when we started. But I'll get the defense blocks placed out in between episodes, as this is all the recording I had time to do. I'll get that put in, get it tidied up. What we'll also do is get one last radar placed at the south end of the lake, just to search for any bottlenecks that would make good permanent defenses that we could push a little bit further to. So yeah, outposts next episode, 2 ore outposts, and hopefully a thermal water outpost all in one episode. Shouldn't take us too long. We come over to the south of the lake. We get one last little base before I decide to mark out where we're going to have the line. I might push a few more bases out when I start to go and record the next episode. But we've had enough biter slaying in this episode. We don't really need to start the next one off with it. A moment ago, we also had a look at the map. We've managed to scan another 2 small rubite patches in the northeast. So that's, yeah, clearly a nice rubite area. And the evolution is at now 0.94. But that's going to be all we have time for this episode. I do hope you have enjoyed the mass slaughter at 6 times speed. Hopefully see you next time. Bye bye.